Hi everybody, this is Justina with JustynaThandMade. In today's video, I'm gonna walk you through how to create this cute and really fast zipper pouch. I created this pattern because we all love our see-through printed vinyls, but then they can be pretty pricey. So if you want to create larger projects, you would have to use a lot of it. So I wanted to utilize my clear vinyl, but with adding side panels made out of waterproof canvas that it's relatively inexpensive. You can create a cute pouches that are pretty good size, but still can feature your PTU clear printed vinyl. I also know that a good amount of sewists that have domestic machines have issue with their machines sewing through the PTU vinyl. So using a fabric that is other than the vinyl or jelly vinyl helps with that issue. I sew on a domestic machine, and with this project I had no problems with the bobbin thread gathering or with any problem with my thread. This Lulu pattern, it's free. You don't really need a pattern file to create your project. I'm gonna walk you through in this video how to create your cuts based on the size of the roll of your clear vinyl that you have. For this particular pouch, for those measurements, I'm gonna post them in the description box below, so you don't have to write anything down. If you have a vinyl that is exactly the same size, you can just refer to the measurements of the cuts listed below. But if your vinyl is a tiny bit different size, don't worry, you will be able to create this pouch with basically any size of PCU vinyl. The only thing that you have to pay attention to, that the vinyl doesn't have a directional print. So if it's a print like mine, that you can use a full piece of the vinyl for the main panel, then you are good to go. If you still want to create this pattern but your vinyl has directional print, you can always cut the main panel in half and just sew them together in the middle. So this way you will create a panel that will have a directional print both ways facing up. Like I said, this is a free pattern, but if you would still like to support my small business, you can visit my Etsy store and see if any other patterns that can be purchased catch your eye. If you still would like to support me but you don't want to purchase anything from my Etsy store, please consider using the thanks option on my YouTube channel. And now if you want to see how to cut the panels and how to put this pouch together, please keep watching. To start our project, we're gonna prep our cuts, and I'm gonna explain to you how I made mine. So like I said, I want to utilize the printed vinyl as much as I can. So I know I wanted the centerpiece of my pouch to be 6 inches, so I cut a 6 inches piece out of my roll, and this roll is 12.5 inches in width, just a little more than that. So this way I have the height of my piece, and based on that I cut my 2 side pieces out of waterproof canvas. So I cut 2 pieces that are 3 inches in width and the same height as my clear vinyl. So I just measure exactly the size of my vinyl and cut 2 identical 3-inch pieces out of waterproof canvas. And I also have my tape prepped, but I'm gonna wait to see the final width of my top edge to see what length of the zipper tape I need for the closure of my pouch. I also prepped my zipper pull and 2 zipper ends, since we're gonna be doing the slip zipper ends on both sides. Now that all our supplies and cuts are ready, we're gonna start with connecting our middle panel with our side panels. So you're gonna place them right sides together along the long edges and clip. So now that you have your project prepped like this, you're gonna take it to the machine and you're gonna sew along those 2 edges with the 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, and I'm gonna be using 3.5 stitch length. We're gonna be sewing both sides to create the full panel of our pouch. Now that you have both sides sewn in, we're gonna fold it over and finger press the seam. Do it on both sides. You want to make sure that your seam allowance is behind your waterproof canvas panel. And when you have both prepped like this, you're gonna take your project back to the machine and you're gonna top stitch on the waterproof canvas side along those 2 seams with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. Now that the panels are attached and top stitched, we can just clean them up. I have a little bit of a step up here and here, so I'm just gonna trim it. And now that we have the final width of our pouch, the panels, now we can figure out what kind of length of a zipper we will need. Keep in mind that this is still gonna have some seam allowance, but we always want to give ourselves a little more space on the zipper just to make it easier for ourselves to work on it. So I'm gonna place my project and make sure I have about 2 inches of the zipper tape extra on both sides. And now I'm gonna start attaching my zipper to my project. So I want to make sure that my zipper is down and it's aligned with the edge of my pouch. So you want to make sure it's centered, and now you can clip it. And also you want to mark 1 inch from each side edge of your pouch on the zipper, because that's the place we're gonna slip the zipper from our seam. Do the same on both sides. And when you have your project prepped like this, you're gonna take it to the machine and you're gonna sew the zipper on with along this edge with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length, slipping your zipper tape off as you sew. You don't want to sew in the zipper all the way through to the end of your panel. You want to make sure you are slipping the zipper tape off at the 1 inch marks. So take it to the machine and sew the zipper on. Now that the zipper is sewn, as you can see, I have my zipper tape slipped here so it doesn't go all the way to the end. Now I'm gonna transfer where that point is on my zipper tape. And when I have that done, I'm gonna flip the zipper over and finger press the zipper tape And when that's done, I'm gonna take the project back to the machine and I'm gonna top stitch my zipper from the place where it slipped on the zipper tape up to that point, and I'm gonna be sewing with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length, and I'm gonna back stitch on the beginning and on the end of my seam. And now that the installation of my zipper tape is completed on that side, I'm gonna move to the other side. So I'm gonna make sure that my sides aligned, and clip the zipper tape along the other top edge. And I'm gonna take my project back to the machine and I'm gonna sew my zipper tape on again, making sure I slip my zipper tape at the 1 inch mark on each side. So take your project to the machine and sew the zipper tape on with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. Back stitch well on the beginning and on the end of your seam. And now that we have the other side of the zipper attached, we're gonna split our zipper tape and we're gonna finger press the zipper tape on the other end of our pouch and take it back to the machine and top stitch our zipper tape along the initial seam at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. Now that you have the zipper tape attached and top stitch on both ends of our unit, you can now, if you want to attach your back tag, now it's a good time to do it, especially if you're gonna sew it on. So just keep in mind that this is how the pouch gonna be when it's completed. So figure out which side you want to be the front side of your pouch and find the best placement for your tag. I'm gonna use a small piece of double-sided tape to help me keep the tag in place while it's being installed. Now that my back tag is attached, I'm gonna move on to finishing up our sides. To do that, we're gonna place our pouch wrong sides together. We're gonna do a French seam on our pouch, so that's why we are starting with placing our project wrong sides together. So now you're gonna make sure that your top edge aligned nicely and clip the sides. And when you have that ready, you're gonna take the project back to the machine and you're gonna sew along those two edges with the 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, making sure you are back stitching well on the top and on the bottom, especially at the top, because you want to make sure that the seam is nicely secured. So take it to the machine and sew along those two edges. Now that the side seams are completed, we're gonna trim the seam allowances to 1/8 of an inch. And now, if you're afraid that your waterproof canvas may fray on the top, you can just quickly zap it with a lighter, because it's a polyester material. And now you're gonna turn the project wrong side out. Roll the seams in your hand and clip. And when you have your project prepped like this, you're gonna take it back to the machine and you're gonna be sewing along those two seams with 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, making sure that your seam it's larger than the seam allowance that it's folded inside. So 1/4 of an inch should be sufficient, but if you want to make sure that the seam will be enclosed in your current seam, you can increase the seam allowance a little bit, making sure you still have a little space on the top where you're not going to be sewing through the zipper. So take your project to the machine and sew along those two sides with the seam allowance of at least 1/4 of an inch. Now that the seams are completed, you can peek inside to make sure you can't see any fabric of the initial seam allowance peeking through the seam. And if it's looking good, just turn your project right side out. And your little pouch is almost done. Now we just have to finish up the zipper. So since this is the front side of my pouch, I'm gonna insert my zipper pull from this side, and I just want to make sure it's gonna align nicely. So I'm just gonna clip here. Pull the zipper all the way through. Make sure your zipper is nice, that nothing seems to be twisted. If everything looks good, reinsert the zipper again. And now we have to decide on the length of our zipper ends. I'm gonna be using those metal zipper caps, so I think I'm gonna trim it to about 1 inch on each side. And now I'm gonna install my zipper caps. And now your project is completed. The project is now completed. Our finished zipper pouch is 6.5 inches tall and 9 inches in width. So although we didn't use that much clear printed vinyl, we still get a pretty sizable zipper pouch. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and that you're gonna give the project a go. If you do, please make sure to post it in the Facebook group or to tag me on Instagram so I can admire your creations. If you are not yet a member of my Facebook group, the link to the Facebook group and my Instagram is in the description below. All the measurements for this size pouch are also posted below, so you don't have to take notes during the video. You can just refer to the description of the video. If you are not yet a subscriber to my channel, please consider subscribing, and if you did enjoy this video, please make sure to give it a like. If you have friends that you think would enjoy my sewing tutorials, please make sure to share my channel with them as well. Till the next time.